All right, how's it going? We're live. Going to be talking a little bit about winter and November this year for everything that's going to be going on. Um, a little bit of an early look in November. I'd like to do this before a lot of my monthly forecasts just to get you guys excited for what's going to be happening in the near future. So this is kind of just an early look in November. Obviously, things could change. And as well as the winter discussion, I'm going to get a little bit more in depth because obviously my forecast, I don't want it to be like 40 minutes long when I make the winter forecast. So I'm just going to break it down a little bit further for you guys here. So this is for, I guess, more of the passionate follower of weather, as my computer is doing something really weird. Okay, cool. It's been acting up all day, so this might end very quickly if my computer acts up as we're waiting for everything to work properly. Oh boy. If you guys ever hear me complain about my computer, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm trying to get this working. Well, this is working now. Maybe this will. Sorry for the silence as I'm trying to. There we go. I think. There. Wait. Yeah. Okay. I think we're getting something here, guys. I apologize for the silence. As it's acting up again. This computer does things that I don't even really know if a computer is even supposed to do a lot of the time. All right, well, scratch that. We're going to have to just kind of go through things like this. Maybe I could just open the picture here. Oh, yes. Okay. So that might work. I had a few things I wanted to look at there throughout the video. Okay, so I'm glad that I'm going to be able to keep doing this because I thought I was going to have to end it and start over at some point. But I'm glad we got this going. Now, before I get started, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. I really, really would appreciate it if you guys are into weather or things like that. I really like to make videos about weather and live streams like this also. Now, we're going to be talking about November, an early look at November, and also a little bit more of an in-depth look at the winter forecast and everything that's going into this winter. So hopefully you guys are interested in that. Feel free to ask any questions, though, that you would maybe want to ask. I'd be glad to answer them. I did a really fun live stream yesterday where I did something very similar, where I just had you guys asking a ton of questions, and I was answering. So make sure to stay tuned on that. I wanted to talk a little bit. Well, we'll start with the winter portion of the video before I answer all the questions. I want you guys to go ahead and keep asking questions, though, because I will get to that momentarily. I just thought of something that I wanted to compile here. Sorry, I just moved the mic. It might have made a really weird noise. I want to see what it'll actually be. My bad. Wait, let me think of what I'm doing here. Okay, I think. 2009 and 2014, November to November. Okay, so I'm going to look at the surface temperature throughout the United States according to my analogs. I haven't even really thought about November much yet, except for when I was doing my fall forecast, but I looked at everything as a whole, obviously. So I wanted to go ahead and take a look. We'll discover this together here, as I'm already preparing to make my November forecast eventually. So according to my two analogs, this is what November could look like. Very likely that it would look like this, according to my analogs. You can see cold in the south, warm basically in the west and northern portions of the United States. This would be oppressive for New England at this point. I want to see individually, though. Individually, what it would look like real quickly. So we're talking about the extreme cold possible during the winter, and also an early look at November. I like this analog a lot more. You guys know 2014 to 2015. So this is 2014 November. So this would totally go hand in hand with my winter forecast. As we also look, I'd be interested to take a look at September, just so we can get an idea of if it was moderately correct there. Or I'd say this is pretty correct. Not too much you could complain about with this September forecast. Maybe a little bit more of extreme cold throughout the northern plains portions, but besides that, I really can't complain about that. So it really does match up well so far. Also, October would be necessary to also look at, as we're in October now. It's October 1st today. So it has a warm October for basically the entire United States. I don't think this is very, very likely. I think that the northern portions of the United States, northern plains portions of the United States will have below average temperatures, though you guys already know that most likely if you've viewed my videos. If you're a new viewer, feel free to subscribe and also check out my winter forecast and other videos like that. I do live streams like this. Feel free to ask weather questions, as I'm going to go over them very soon. So I want you guys to keep taking a look at that. So November of 2009 would be an interesting one to look at. I've actually added a new analog to my analogs that I'm going to go over shortly. We're not going to look at it yet. So you can see there was a warm November in 2009 to 2010. So we'll have to see. As we approach, we'll obviously have further opinions from models and everything. So it's going to be interesting to note. Now, something I wanted to mention here is we're going to talk a little bit about solar minimum. Now, solar minimum is really when we get this just pattern of consistently low sunspot numbers for a significant period of time. Now, you'll see that there's normal little minimums and maximums in here. This is not what a solar minimum or maximum would be. These are just little waves of active and inactive periods that are very typical. They're normal. It's up, down. We expect this, and it is colder winters consistently on the lower portions of these as we're entering a lower portion of this actually right now. We'll talk about this more. And we're really heading into a possible solar minimum. We're due for one. Heading towards 2050, so the year 2050. So in most of our lifetimes, we're heading towards one, and it's really going to be interesting as we transition there, and it's really going to become way more interesting once we're in that. Obviously, I will be over the age of 50 by then, so it's kind of depressing thinking about that. But so this is the grand solar minimum, and these are solar minimums. We're just going to look at the fact that we're heading into one of these. People are playing a little bit too much into the fact that we might be heading into a grand solar minimum. I think it's more important to look at just the solar minimum as a whole. So I looked at years that we had similar sunspot activity to this year, and we're on the downswing instead of the upswing. So the downswing years. And this is what I found on the years that had similar solar activity. 1985 it was 1984 to 85, 1995 to 96, 2007 to 2008, 1974 to 75, and 1962 to 63. I can see there's very cold pool in Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, the Dakotas, and most of Canada, especially Western Canada. Now, it's interesting to note that first off, it's interesting to note that I didn't see this until after I made my winter forecast, which this actually kind of would agree with this as far as like where the cold is located, the extreme cold. Now, also, it's interesting to note that this is the sea surface temperature for those years, the average sea surface temperature. And you'll notice that it's a La Nina. The average is a La Nina. And we're not in a La Nina at all. Far from it, actually. Now, I went through all the years individually that I just mentioned, and every single one of them was a La Nina. So, I'm tempted to say that this won't exactly look like this map right here. Now, La Nina would typically tend to have colder temperatures in the west just because they usually have a negative PDO, which all of those years also had a negative PDO. We're going to have a kind of mixed PDO with an El Nino, so it'll be very different from this. What I don't think will actually change from this map is how extreme the cold is. Where it is cold, it will be extremely cold. This is something that I'm really fairly certain of coming towards this winter. Now, the real question mark is where that cold will be. A lot of people think that, you know, since they've heard of this thing called a grand solar minimum and they don't really know a lot about it. And they talk a lot about how, oh, well, for instance, I live in Nevada, so you're calling for cold in the east, but it's going to be a grand solar minimum, so I think it'll really be a cold winter here. Now, what the grand solar minimum doesn't change, take note of this, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't change where the cold is. It changes how cold the cold actually is. It actually makes the cold pool of air colder than it would normally be. There's still your troughs and ridges. It doesn't eliminate that factor from the winter. It won't take away that factor. So if it's constantly ridging in the east, we'll use that as an example. If it's constantly ridging in the east and troughing in the west, then the west is going to have a far below average winter, and then the east is going to have an above average winter as far as temperature goes. That's because the cold is colder. The warm is a little bit colder, but there's still warm areas. And that's what I want people to understand. Now, I did pick years, since those were all La Ninas, I picked the El Nino years that were neighboring years to those years that did end up actually lining up on sea surface temperatures. The only 2 years that I could come up with is 1963 to 64 and 2006 to 2007 were the only years that matched up, and it looked a little bit more like this. Now, these weren't years that were similar or they were similar, but they weren't as close to the solar activity. So this is a little less accurate, I would say, but still it's going to give you an idea. Now, if you're a new viewer, feel free to ask any weather questions you might want to ask. I'm going to go through those all in a minute. We're talking about the extreme cold I'm expecting for this winter and also a sneak peek at November. Also, feel free to subscribe if you're interested in weather live streams and weather videos like this. As we were just talking about solar minimum, again, here's the modern minimum that is expected past the year 1950. And this around here will be the year 2100. So we are going to be heading into this. And as we approach, things should get colder. But really after the year 1950 to 1960. Those will be exciting times. I hope I'm still alive, though. Obviously, one would hope. I will pray, because I would love to see that. That would be interesting. So enough with those. I do want to check that comment that just came in one of my videos. I'm about to read some weather comments before I get into November. Those are most of my thoughts on this winter. Unless anybody has any questions regarding winter, course, I will be happy to answer those. I just had a comment come in. As I just got a comment. Let me hop back on this real quick. All right. So I'm going to read through the comments now. So feel free to keep asking those, though. As yesterday, I went on for an hour and 20 minutes reading them. So it's very possible that I'll do the same today. Jaxo Lantern says hello. Hello. Kyle the Killer, hi. Michael M, will the Great Lakes see an above-average lake effect snow year? I think it is possible. If you look at the sea surface temperatures of the lakes, it's above-average temperatures, which would really lead to snow, a lot of lake effect snow, if we get a lot of cold swings in November and December. That's really crucial. You'll notice that a lot of lake effect years is early winters, not late winters. It's because it has to stay warm. And then the really cold air moves over it before it can cool down. Do you think that North Georgia might get more snow than normal? If you checked out my winter forecast, you'd know that the answer is yes. I do think that you guys will have slightly above average snow. Northern Illinois is not the place to be, it looks like. Do not know what that means. Will I see another hurricane here in Norfolk, Virginia? What do you think? I do not think that Virginia will see a hurricane this year anymore. I think that was probably our only risk, but obviously anything can happen. Eric Apolliner, hello everyone. Ethan Short, hi. Michael M, sup Eric. Pete Frisella, the Weather Channel saying warm for October, November, and December. What do you think? It really just depends where. If you're talking about the East, I think that it's possible that they're wrong. We can check that out right now. Because it's their fall forecast. I don't really like the Weather Channel all that much. Fall 2015. Can't really find it, but I'll take your word for it. I disagree. I think that things are going to change here very shortly. Storm Chaser UK, hi everyone. Fox Kemp, I've been checking out Tropical Tidbits for the first time earlier this morning. It shows a large mass of cold air heading to the East Coast and down south-ish around October 17-ish. Crazy. Yeah, we can take a look right now. Keep those questions rolling in, though, guys. Keep me busy. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to. I do live streams like this and also do a lot of weather videos. So you see the cold transitions to the east after the 15th, as it has been showing for quite a while. See, it's going to be very warm on the East Coast, basically all the way through October until about the 15th. People are going to be calling me wrong, folks, so prepare for it. They're going to be calling for very warm conditions in the East through the rest of October because they don't really understand that things can change. But a pattern switch is expected around the 15th. See, warm, warm, warm. Then the cold finally transitions right around the 17th. This is when we will get our first taste of very cold fall temperatures, I'm sure of it. As you can see, there's your high temperatures in the 60s, lower 60s for Virginia, 50s north of there, 40s in New England. So there's an idea. Donald Savage. I'd be 95 in 2050. Oh, man. The UK winter will be cold this year with a lot of snow predicted to be in December, January, February, and beginning of March. Yes, Tropical Tidbits is cool. Flight 19, I'm 100 miles south of Dallas. Looks like it will be bad. If you're asking for the winner, I think that you will likely be having a chilly, wet winter. Can't really say much about snow. It's possible. Always possible. Yay, an ice age. How cold will it be in 2050? I wouldn't go that far as to say ice age. It'll be very cold. I think noticeably it'll be something like we haven't had one in recorded history. We don't really know. We don't really know how cold it will be, but I'm assuming that summers will be a lot colder, like more mild, and winters will be noticeably snowier and colder. It'll be especially noticeable in the states that usually don't get as much snow. So states like Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama. Those areas are going to start getting consistent snowstorms every year, and it's going to be very strange. So, yeah. New England, it'll be a lot colder, as well as the northern plains. Do you think that Norfolk, Virginia will have good snowfall this year? I do. I think it'll be a year similar to 2014 to 2015, where you guys had 2 8-inch plus snowstorms. Hi, Eric Apolliner. What is a solar minimum? Okay, so solar minimum that I was just looking at earlier in the live stream when you weren't here yet, but it's basically where the sunspot activity is extremely low for a long period of time. This example is 50 years. I think that they're calling for the next one to also be a similar time frame from 2050 to about 2100. So this is where the grand solar minimum will be. Mini ice age it says on this, but I don't know. I wouldn't go that far. Ethan Short, will Oklahoma have a cold winter this year with snow? I think it's certainly possible. You'll be in the transition state, so it'll be kind of in between. One of the snowiest winters for Kansas City was experienced in 2009 to 2010 and 2010 to 2011. Any sign of this happening again? There's some small signs. I think that it'll be a lot closer to 2014 to 2015, though. 2009 to 2010, it had a lot going for it, and it was a very unique year that was snowy for a lot of areas, especially Maryland and Northern Virginia were just insane. Why you don't think see a hurricane? Heard weather is worried about a East Coast hurricane mid-October. I don't understand that sentence, so I can't really answer it. Weather Channel is kind of obsolete with the internet, yeah. Great, because I live in an area in Ontario that gets a lot of lake effect snow, so I'm very excited. Yeah, I wish I got lake effect snow. It's very, very different, to say the least. I never seen it this warm before in first half of fall for Norfolk, VA. Could I see warm in 80s up until late November before it finally cools down here in Norfolk, VA? No. Likely you'll be already in the lower 70s, upper 60s by the 20th of October, so a cool down is right around the corner. Probably hasn't been the warmest fall. This is very typical fall. Hasn't been too crazy warm there, so could the solar minimum take even Florida colder? It'll make it colder than usually is. I wouldn't say below freezing. I know that sometimes in these solar minimums, my grandma used to live in Florida, and she said it's Fort Lauderdale, actually. She saw snow in the it was maybe the 80s one time. Yeah. So, what do you think winter will be like for Tampa, Florida? I think it'll be very wet, and you'll have your cool downs, your very cold patterns that you get in some very cold winters where it's like 50s as highs. So you could get some very cold uh, periods there. Hey, I'm in New Jersey. Are we getting a lot of snowstorms this winter? Yeah. Yeah, you could. In Miami, it's the same thing. Jim Nelson. What do you see for Idaho Panhandle? The Idaho Panhandle, I think you're going to get a lot of snow here very, very shortly here in October and possibly into November. And then I think things are going to kind of calm down uh, once we're through to later December. But I think that things will start to wind back up in maybe late March. So you're going to get a big late half to your winter there. Big early half or big, like, I guess, like early quarter and then later quarter would be the better way to put it. Matt Lionhan, what's the snow forecast for the Adirondack Mountains this year? Above average snowfall. Garden Survivor. What about Texas Gulf Coast for the winter? I'm assuming. Chilly and wet is what I'm calling for. Yeah, the visibility in a lake effect snowband is almost zero. It's so cool. Yeah, I agree. Ever since I saw the lake effect snow event in Buffalo, New York, I've always wanted to experience it. Things are tough all over. It stays warm in southeastern Virginia up until at least Thanksgiving. We've had a we've had Christmases wearing shorts and t-shirts. Nights get colder, but days can have temps in the 70s. Yeah, that's actually where I live. So, yeah, tell me about it. Um, it can stay warm up until about Thanksgiving, but uh, in my analog year, 2014 to 2015, um, it actually sleeted right around Thanksgiving or before Thanksgiving. So I expect that we've had a lot of warm Novembers, warmer than average Novembers, and that's really why one would think that, but it's not supposed to be that way. What will winter be like for Tuscarora, New York? Above average snowfall and below average temperatures. Why you don't think we will we have another hurricane for Norfolk, Virginia? Some other weatherman saying there is a possible hurricane up the East Coast. Weather Bell Joe Bastardi thinks we may have another one. Well, of course, there's a small percentage. Don't I can't say that there will probably be one, or I think there will be, because that just doesn't make any sense when there's less than a 10% chance of it happening. What about Colorado Springs? Think below average snowfall and above average temperatures. More aluminum will reflect more sun out. I hope they will microwave the southeast ridge of high pressure. I hate them things. I'm surprised I'm still having hot weather here in Norfolk, Virginia. It got to cool down sometimes. I'm ready for fall weather. Well, after the 16th or after the 15th of October, you'll be experiencing colder temperatures, likely in the upper 60s and lower 70s during the day. 2014, the last solar max gave all Western Europe 4, 5, or 6 of the coldest, wettest summers on record. If you want cooler weather, if you want cooler weather, if you have enough Bitcoin, you can pay a weather company to get it. You sound like one of those people who think that people control the weather. The snowfall amounts are huge. One time here, we got about 3 feet of snow from one band. It was crazy. Yeah, I believe it for sure. How will winter be in Michigan? Frigid. It'll be very cold. Things are tough all over. Warm temps, 70s are normal for Norfolk well into October and November. Yeah, I live in Virginia Beach, and it usually, I don't know if it's different. I mean, you're really close, but it might be. Maybe you're closer to water. I'm pretty far inland in Virginia Beach, but it's usually 60s by November. Usually it's warm around October. I mean, right around Halloween. For some reason, it's been that way for probably like 5 years. But yeah, usually it's 60s by November, and it's usually freezing by or 50s at least by Thanksgiving, where I live at my house. 2014 to 15 analog for Texas Gulf Coast was so wet we had flooding from March to May. And that is my analog, so could happen. How will the Southeast be affected by this winter? It should be colder than average and snow dipping further down than it typically would. That's what I expect. Wirt Banks. So when the cold air hits the east/south later November, will it be super sudden or more of a slow, gradual thing? It'll be pretty sudden. I'm expecting that it'll be the day before it comes will be an above average temperature day, and then it'll be below average the very next day. So it could be as extreme as 10 or 20 degree difference from one day to the next. So if you consider that extreme. As you see the 14th, if you look at northern Alabama, it'll be as a high, it'll be 71 degrees on the 13th. That doesn't really sound right. It's because I went too far. So it'll be 75 degrees or so, probably a bit warmer, probably 78 on the 12th, and then 70, and then 67, 61 by the 15th. So you could be in the lower 60s for highs by the time it's the 15th. I guess it won't be as sudden as I said before, but Brandy Kolb, I want snow. Me as well. Also, could it be very cold in New Jersey this winter? Because a lot of people are telling me it's going to be a rainy and warmer. No, probably colder than average. When will Florida get out of the upper 90s and into the 70s? Into the 70s, you're looking pretty deep in. I think that it's going to be, depends where in Florida, really. But you could be in the 80s quite soon. The solar minimum creates a bigger ice sheet in the Arctic because it's colder and the ice reflects the light away. So it cools down, which is why it gets colder in some places. Yeah. I live in Virginia Beach too. Things are tough all over. Well, you said Norfolk a minute ago, so thank you. I hope you're right about cooler weather here in Norfolk, Virginia. Could I see 50 inches snowstorm Norfolk, Virginia in the future? I hope not too much. Only a few inches is fine. Probably not 50 inches in a snowstorm. Probably not. Probably a lot of those typical Virginia Beach, 10-inch snowstorms that happen, every 3 years could become a lot more common as we go into the solar minimum. I think this will be one of those years where we get a few 8-inch plus snowstorms, maybe a couple. So expect that. Maine and Mass will get a lot of snow. Yes, they will. Shane, I believe later October. Don't know. Oh. Yeah, I agree. Um, things are tough all over. Yeah, like I said, um, for the last 5 years or so, or maybe more, it hasn't been that way. So when you say it didn't used to be, that's because it's always been above average temperatures as of recently. So that's why you're perceiving it that way, but it's going to be below average this year, probably, or at least through October. So that's why it's not going to be the way you've experienced it in the past. But it depends what you mean by warm, because Thanksgiving is usually 60s or 50s, from what I remember, pretty much every year. 70s is pretty warm for a day. That would be above average. I remember it was 81 Christmas Eve, though. Why was 2007 to 2008 such an epic year for the Southwest Colorado, similar to a huge El Nino year? Must when it was a strong La Nina. I think it was 0.7 in the 3.4 region. Yeah. So sometimes in El Nino, when paired up with a few other things, will bring a lot of precipitation to the Southwest. And that really just cut through the whole Southwest and brought a lot of systems all the way to Colorado and northern Utah, or sorry, northern New Mexico and areas like that. So that's why you experience conditions like that. What is your outlook for the Midwest this week? Where I am, they are calling for chances of storms through Saturday. Yeah, and it depends where in the Midwest, but yeah, it looks like there will be rain for quite a while everywhere in the West. Up until about the 10th, you're looking at big rain risks. At least. If you're new to the live stream, feel free to ask any questions about weather. I'll be going through all of them and answering them. Also, make sure to subscribe if you like live streams like this. I also make seasonal and monthly forecasts. If you're interested in that, make sure to go check that out. When do you see first true cold front coming into Houston, Texas area? Any idea? I don't really. Could be later October, though. Early November, possibly. Will the South see snow? Possibly. What about Jerome, Idaho? Idaho will have probably below average snowfall or average snowfall with above average temperatures or average temperatures. You're right on the fringe. Oh, okay, Chicks Beach, yeah. I live kind of in like the Kempsville, Salem area, so that's where I'm located. Yeah, you're right on the water. If you're near Chicks Beach, that area actually does receive a lot of warmer temperatures, especially in the early fall. In the land, you'd be surprised, maybe even by 5 or 6 degrees. Sometimes it's warmer just up there, just because when it's colder, uh, air is coming through and the wind is coming from the north. That air blows off the Chesapeake, and that I'm telling you, that time of year, the water is still pretty warm, especially after a summer like we've had this year, where the water's just gotten super warm. I mean, your temperatures will be swelling for quite a while due to that water. um, I'm significantly further south than that, obviously, like a 30-minute, 20-minute car ride. So it really allows for just more temperature variations, less influence from the water. Most likely going to pack my suitcase and head for Arkansas. Oh, yeah, this guy. You love Arkansas, if you're the one I thought of. Anything for Michigan? Yes. Probably, yes, there will be something for Michigan. How much snowfall do you think we'll get in Tuscarora and New York? I can't really put an amount on it, but I think above average snowfall. Is Norfolk, Virginia due for a snowstorm in December? It has been since 2010 It has been 2010 since they have a snowstorm in December. I wouldn't say due, but it could happen this year. It just depends on like when. I think that December could be a little bit warmer than average for the East Coast. It's possible. So if that's the case, it'll have to wait till January most likely. Do you think that this winter will be cold and with a lot of system snow, not like lake effect in Ontario? It's possible, especially in December with those transition troughs. Like you're going to be seeing a lot of troughs moving through, and that's really going to allow for the track to be in between the warm air and the cold air. And that's when you would see a lot of storms track up through the Great Lakes region that time of year. So the answer is it's possible. Any update on Kentucky? Because when told us about winter 2009 to 2010, we got hit hard by an ice storm in January. Yeah, I can't really say if that will like directly correlate or not. Analogs are mostly temperature and precipitation, not really like system to system. So we'll just have to wait and see. Southern Texas is probably no longer a safe place. Every day there's rains, floods, that threats. Feels like a never-ending storm that forms rain each time it goes away. Where is fall? Fall is on the way. I expect fall to arrive after about October 15th. What about the Puget Sound area? I've never heard of it, so. Can Virginia get hit by a hurricane before October 8th? My mom is supposed to fly back home next Monday. I don't want her to get stuck if there's a hurricane on October 8th. I don't think so, because there's not really a system out there that's even looking like a threat for us. So I think we're safe at least until then. How about Denver? I expect that it's possible that you'll have slightly above average snowfall, but if not average, and about average temperatures. What about Milford, Connecticut? Above average snowfall and below average temperatures for you? Again, if you're just now joining this video, feel free to comment, ask me anything. I'll be happy to answer it for you guys. And make sure to subscribe if you're into live streams like this or videos that are weather related, because that's what my content is. Will New Orleans be cold? Colder than average, yes. Northeast Indiana, Fort Wayne snowfall. So I think that if you're like in a lake effect area where it's possible to get lake effect, you could be looking at above average. But I think overall you'll be slightly above average snowfall with far below average temperatures. We should be frigid. How cold will Phoenix, Arizona get this winter? I think it's going to be above average temperatures for you and average precipitation. So there's that. What about southern Wisconsin? What's our winter supposed to be like? Again, if you're in a lake effect area, which you wouldn't be. So I think below average snowfall and extremely below average temperatures. If the jet stream buckles, then it can make a deep low pressure, which will bring cold air down the United States with snow. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. If the jet stream slows down, that's key. Okay, so Western Washington State. Yeah, I think below average precipitation and above average temperatures. I live 30 minutes south of St. Louis, Missouri, snowfall. I think you're going to be looking at average snowfall as well as below average temperatures. How about Brookfield, Wisconsin temperatures and snowfall this winter? Below or average snowfall and below average temperatures. Think that we will have above average lake effect snowfall this year because the lakes are very warm, and if we can get some cold blasts very early, it'll come together quite nicely. Louisiana and Mississippi will have below average temperatures and above average precipitation. Could Louisiana see a really cold winter? It depends what you mean by really cold, but the temperatures will be below average. Do you believe in global warming? Not going to answer that. Will northern VA see a lot of snow? I think so. Yes. Above average snowfall, below average temperatures. Weather NLO. Thank you so much. Can fall weather be much later than expected? October 15th could fall weather hold a lot longer. If you're asking if the fall weather could hold on a lot longer than that, obviously it could, but I'm just really expecting it not to. That's right around when I think the fall weather is going to arrive. St. Louis is going to be below average temperatures. Northeast Texas snow. It's possible, yeah. Thanks for the forecast for Western Washington. Thank you for watching. Chad Crawford. I can't ever ask about my area because I know it will get nothing. I will bet my life saving on it. I will get a big one, Storm, if you look for a non-event. Hey yo, Javin Chase. Javin Chase. Will South Texas have snow in early December like it did in 2017? I don't think so, no. I'm a very old fan. Thank you. I remember that name for sure. I've heard of you. You've definitely conversated a little bit. Anthony Loda. Thanks, Raf. He didn't answer my question about the snow. If you're saying I didn't answer your question, go ahead and ask it again. I'll answer it. San Antonio also got freezing rain sometimes last January. Got a friend who lives there. Pretty insane. Will the DC area see lots of snow? I think, yeah, above average snowfall and below average temperatures. Does North Carolina look like a bitter, cold, snowy year? Yes. Below average temperatures and above average snowfall is expected. Will Tampa maybe see snow this year? Got close last winter. No, probably not. There's probably not much of a chance. Unfortunately. If you're new to the live stream, feel free to ask questions. I'm going through and answering all of them. Also, make sure to subscribe if you like live streams like this or weather-related videos, because that's what my content is. Rosalind DeSanio. How about the NYC, New Jersey weather outlook for this winter? Bitter cold / snow? Yes, I think so. Will we be getting a repeat of snow event like this winter in San Antonio, Texas? No, probably not. I live near the ocean and the East Coast and experienced hurricanes before. Oh, man. When do you think that the East Coast will get their first cold shot? Right around October 15th is when I'm expecting the first look at fall. If we're looking at the screen here. Whoops, keep clicking that one. So the blue areas are obviously below average temperatures and red areas are above average temperatures. See, all the way up until The 10th, we're still looking at warm temperatures throughout the entire eastern United States. But it's right around the 11th, 12th, 13th, all the way through the 16th that we see the cold air start to mix in. And if we look at the ensemble model, which is just more reliable because it is multiple models put together, you see just very cold conditions moving to the east by the time we're to the 17th. But really, it's going to infiltrate the area around the 15th and beyond. When do you think the first snow for the northern? You got to finish that, man. I don't know what that means. What kind of El Nino are we going to have this winter? It's a weak Modokai El Nino, or not true Modokai, but it's kind of a Modokai. Frogman. Who will see the harshest winter? I think it's likely that areas in New England and upstate New York will have the harshest winter. As far as like you're going to see the compared to normal, I guess you could say. I think they're going to get battered this year, honestly. When do you see the first snow for northern southeast B? Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. Don't really know what that means. Will there be below average temperatures in Ontario in late fall and winter this year? Yes. Yes, there will. Yellowstone Park will see a total of 36 inches of snow in 150 hours. Yeah. It's about to snow there big time. A colder day here in Scotland, never above 50 degrees with yet another full day of rain. Yeah. It's crazy out there. How will winter be in PA? It'll be pretty cold and pretty snowy. Will that big blue mass of cold air you just showed keep moving south and cover all of Florida? Seems the model ends before it approaches Florida. Yeah, so only time will tell. I'm expecting that after this will kind of weaken off, taper off, and then this one looks to be the next trough that'll kind of move its way in as we get like a circular system. Now, can look and give you a for sure answer here. Yes. So you'll take notice that there is 4 troughs in the United States, actually 5. So this is a pretty fast moving system in the atmosphere we have here. So things are going to keep moving consistently and rotating. Now, if we only had about 3, then it would be kind of reoccurring. It would stay steady. But you can already see that blue start to move out. That's not temperatures. That's just geopotential height. As this looks to kind of rotate in here, so it really just depends. What is it going to take to get a 3.4 region up to 1+1 for this Modokai El Nino season? The latest update is points +6. I just don't know how it will. So I don't think it will get above that. It doesn't have to be considered an El Nino, but I think it'll be right around 0.8 at its peak, maybe a little bit more. When the ink hurricane season shut down, North Carolina can't not afford another hurricane. They are so damaged from this hurricane. Yeah, for sure. Will Wisconsin get a white Thanksgiving and Christmas this year? It's possible, for sure. It's going to be brutally cold by Christmas, so certainly possible. Scotland will get colder with a 70% chance of snow. Book. Cold Times Preparing for Mini Ice Age. Anita Bailey, PhD. Read anything by John I. Casey. YouTubers love this channel too. Thanks for watching, man. Western Kentucky get much snow? Any in November? It's possible. I wouldn't say November most likely, but who knows? Heard that forecasting the Norfolk area is one of the hardest areas. What do you think? I would completely agree with that. Which month do you think that the Southeast could see snow? January. What about Missouri for snow and cold this year? It's going to be pretty cold with average snowfall. Keyboard's laggy. Thanks for the video. Really good. Thank you for watching. It could get to 30 degrees Fahrenheit, -2 degrees Celsius in Scotland. When will North Carolina see first snowfall this year? If you're not talking about everything except the mountains, probably January, but mountains probably December. Will next September be much colder? Norfolk, VA, it can't be any warmer. Well, next September is a long way away, so I can't really tell you. Anyway, guys, I'm going to have to end this one here. It looks like dinner is probably done downstairs, so I'm going to end this one. Expect a new video today. Make sure to check out that winter forecast on my channel if you haven't already. And also subscribe if you like live streams and videos like this. I'm going to go ahead and peel out. I'll see you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for staying active in the comment section and everything. I really appreciate it. Expect more live streams coming up just like this.